Love it or hate it, the Apple Watch is one of the most popular watches on the market. But what if the best way to use one isn't as a watch? Here today in our new studio setup with Ed Jelley, the founder of Elro Industries. Ed's come up with this really unique way to use or repurpose an Apple Watch that maybe you thought you would use and you're just not. So Ed, if you wouldn't mind, just give us a little bit of a backstory about yourself.
Sure. My name's Ed Jelley. I am a contributing editor here at Worn & Wound. Been here for a little while, writing reviews about watches. And as a watch enthusiast, I had an Apple Watch Ultra sitting in my drawer, and I wanted to make a way to use that. So took my kid's 3D printer, got to work in Fusion 360, and designed a case that turns your Apple Watch Ultra into a standalone communication device. So basically, you free up your wrist for wearing a real watch, and you can ditch your phone and all the nasty distractions that come with it. So thanks for having me, and
of course.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, I mean, a few questions for you, so let's dive right in.
You've described Elro Industries as an adventure in micromanufacturing. Kind of how does your mind wrap around that, and kind of how do you frame all of the projects you're working on?
So micromanufacturing to me is different from like my normal everyday job, which is more macro manufacturing. My family owns a small business that manufactures an industrial electronic product. And this one was just me kind of messing around in Fusion 360 and rapid prototyping with the 3D printer that, like I said, we got my kid for his birthday. Micro manufacturing is just kind of smaller. It's out of the back room in our house right now, which it's just a smaller scale, and it's a lot faster. What was fascinating about 3D printing for me is that you can have a design, you can print it out, 40 minutes later you can test it, you can then go back into your software, iterate on that design, print it again, and the fact that you can rapidly prototype, print, and test a product within a couple hours is just that's a part about it that kind of blew my mind.
No, I think it's a great way to describe it. And small businesses is always one or two people wearing a number of hats. And how has the entire adventure been different than what you thought it would be?
I fell kind of backwards into this. I made this thing. I thought it was cool enough to hit the Instagram feed. It was kind of watch adjacent because I think a lot of us watch enthusiasts have an Apple Watch or an Apple Watch Ultra because it's the big cool one, and it's made out of titanium, and it's a cool piece of tech that also kind of hits that watch world. But a lot of us just had them sitting in our drawers. And that's what I saw. There were a couple other people making cases for the Apple Watches, but I had no intention on selling them, which was kind of the business part of it. But that post went nuts on Instagram, and people were sharing it, and it hit the Explore pages, and I was getting all these new followers, and people were asking to buy it. And I guess I'm a bit of a masochist, because if enough people ask me to do something, I don't want to leave them hanging. No. So, my goal was I want to sell 40 of them. And then I think that was the first week and a half was
wow.
We were oh, this might be a thing. So
been a number of attempts, across different people over the years to kind of transform the Apple Watch into not a watch, so to speak.
Right.
What is it that sets, the Mini Phone Ultra apart in your mind?
I think my history or my work history in being around everyday carry gear. Mm-hmm. I used to write for everydaycarry.com. That was my first paid writing job was freelancing for everydaycarry.com, and just being around gear for a very long time kind of gave me a more focus, this isn't a piece of tech, this is more of a piece of gear, and kind of bringing those inspirations into the design and making something simple. A lot of them have you see the ones with the click wheel, and it's the click wheel is just a train of gears, and if you look at all the reviews, the click wheel breaks.
Gotcha.
You don't need a click wheel because you have the crown on the side of the watch that you can use. We don't have to introduce more plastic parts into the already plastic part. So just I think my love for gear, from watches, knives, pens, backpacks, the whole everyday carry umbrella, I've kind of been living in that space for a while and wanted to do something that kind of looks like that, fits in that world.
I mean, if you haven't seen them, they have a very unique aesthetic to them. This is one of the orange ones you did. This was the first color, correct?
Yeah, I did orange first.
And how did you start with orange?
It's what I had in stock. Okay. Yeah, I had the orange plastic and the orange PLA, and it was loaded in the printer, and I'm all right, we'll just run it because it's already in there. And I do like orange. I'm a fan of orange. But yeah, no, it was again, it was one of those things all right, it's in there. I think one of my kids wanted to print out like a fidget toy or something in that color. And that didn't play into the choice of orange, but it kind of worked out well. I think like people have their orange phone, and then, you know, the Apple Watch Ultra does have orange accents on it, which is kind of cool. You got the action button, and the crown ring has an orange accent. So it kind of made sense.
You mentioned in the article that the whole, you know, printing and fulfillment of all of this has been fun but chaotic. What's kind of been the most unexpected challenge so far?
I think the most unexpected challenge is taking this is kind of like a culmination of like all the stuff I do. Like I shoot product photos for Tactile Turn. I've been doing that for nearly a decade now. I do marketing with them. I've managed social media in the past for various companies. You know, customer service with my family business, manufacturing with my family business, and then even just shipping and management of like the Shopify and customer requests. Like it's a culmination of like all these things I've done separately, but I've never really done them all for myself for one thing. So that can kind of be tricky to manage. Like, you know, if you're the customer service guy, you're also, you know, the warehouse guy, which is, you know, the warehouse is my back room at my house, and you know, the shipping department is the dining room table. But it's great. It's not a complaint, more so of a, here's another thing that I did not think would be a thing, and yet here we are. It's a thing.
What do you think this product kind of says about where tech culture is with, you know, intentional minimalism or getting away from everyday distractions and intentional use?
Yeah, that's kind of the crazy part is like I have noticed, and it was driven by myself, like if you set the screen time on your phone and then like you actually sit there and like look and see how much time you're spending on your phone, it's kind of eye-opening. Like I think I'm like probably a light to medium user, and like I'll still spend between 3 and 4 hours on my phone. And I know like our phones these days are more than a phone. They're a communication device. It's how you stay in touch with your friends. It's how you can call someone in an emergency. It's how you stay up to date on what's happening. You know, a lot of people don't open a paper newspaper. They scroll their feed and see what's going on. But at the same time, you miss out a lot on interactions in the real world when you're constantly staring down at your phone. I have 2 young kids, and like it's kind of weird if they're like, hey dad, like get off your phone, or like, you know, it's kind of a bummer. Like you're missing out on these moments to the tune sometimes of 3 to 4 hours a day plus, because you're glued to that screen. And I've noticed that there has been like an uptick in like dumb phones. A lot of people are switching over to dumb phones. Like there's a whole subreddit for it. You know, phones that take away the distraction, and it does remove a lot of the distracting doom scrolling in the feed, while allowing you to still stay in contact. I mean, that's like my biggest thing. Like if I'm out fishing on the beach and it's 1 o'clock in the morning, like I want a phone on me just in case, like, you know, something happens. And like for an emergency situation, like I was wearing my Apple Watch, but it would get in the way a lot. Like, you know, if I'm standing in the water with like a, you know, 10-foot fishing pole and a bunch of bags and junk hanging off me, like having to cast and have the thing on your wrist is like a brick. So just tucking that even into the waders and just having this communication device that gives me peace of mind without like, oh, my phone's going to fall into the ocean and then you know, phoneless in the ocean.
Doesn't sound like.
But it's really, I think it boils down to being able to stay in touch without having that temptation to just like sit there and scroll. I mean, even in social settings, like if you look around with your friends, like you notice like people are all looking down at their phones. Like it's you know, it's kind of crazy. Like we've kind of just turned into this instead of like this
interacting. I mean, I think you hit it. It's a perfect opportunity to stay reachable and be able to reach out when you need it without the constant distractions that we all live around in today's age.
And it's not about like, you know, not being reachable. That's like the core thing is being reachable without the other stuff. And like there are some shortcomings. Like it's not perfect. The Apple Watch can do most things, but not everything. Like you can't connect it to your car, which is a bit of a bummer. So like I do like leaving the house without my phone because it just kind of feels freeing. But then like you also miss out on, if you don't want to carry a camera, the phone's a great camera. So it's like give and take. But I think ultimately, you know, one of my use cases for it is like if I'm home, like when I get home from work, I'll just take my phone and I'll like chuck it in the key bin and then I'll stick that in my pocket. This way, like it will go off if I get like an important email or an alert from Slack or something from work that has to get handled, or like a text from a friend. But like I'm not going to sit there blasting through Reddit for, you know, an hour on the couch and then be like, oh, it's dinner time. Like what happened?
So one final question for you, you know, kind of everything that you've done so far and maybe all of your thoughts you got coming up. If you kind of reset time and went back to before you hit print for the first time, what would you do differently?
I think I probably would have started with a different material.
Okay.
I've been doing most of my stuff in PETG right now, which is slightly more thermally stable and it's a bit more impact resistant and it feels better. The PLA can be a little brittle, a little crunchy. I also think I would have started shipping them differently. Like I was putting them unassembled in a bubble envelope and like they were just getting smashed by USPS. And like now I got the Indestructo mailers and I got proper tape and I got a little bubble bag that fits and like it's a nice little package that goes out and I haven't had any get smashed. So like maybe I would have avoided, you know, reshipping 5 or 10. But no, I don't know. I think that's been the fun part is just kind of winging it. Like I kind of like that it's mine and I can wing it. If I go on vacation, I just turn the store off. Like, you know, I don't, it's kind of fun being this like side thing that's kind of elbow rooming into being more of a main thing and being able to do what I want. So I don't think I would have changed much because you can kind of, when it's your thing, you have the ability to rapidly change as you go. And that's part of the exciting part is like, all right, this isn't working, cut it. Or like, oh, this design isn't perfect, remove this piece. And then with the printer, you can just change it on the next rev. There's no ordering 500 parts from a supplier and waiting 6 to 8 weeks for it to come in. And then like you figure out that you don't like this revision, you're stuck selling through something you don't like. So being able to manufacture on demand is like kind of fascinating because you can change quickly and go. And if you don't like something, you don't have to regret, you know, the hypothetical time machine. You don't have to worry about that. You can just change as you go and adapt and move on.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, Ed. Thank you for coming in today and kind of giving us a peek behind the curtain. You know, obviously this is something that not all of us have ever thought about, getting rid of our smartphone. I think for most of it's, you know, definitely one of those true everyday carries. It's not leaving the pocket moments. But let us know, is it something, you know, if you tried a dumb phone, would you want to get rid of your smartphone? Could you go to just an Apple Watch only? I think personally I couldn't, but maybe Ed will convince me to give it a try and we'll see what happens from there.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, Ed.